Great. Welcome, everybody. This is our Compassionate Eating. This is our second integration call, our fourth call, not including Healthy Full Fridge. And I want to start by making space for Wendy and Colleen, because I don't think you introduced yourselves sort of live in the Compassionate Eating realm. So if you, Wendy, why don't you jump in first? That would be great.
Hi, I'm Wendy. Can you hear me okay?
If you can tell us your name, where are you from, and one word of what is compassion for you?
Yeah, so I'm from the UK, based in London. And my one word, I think, would be, I've been thinking about this and it's hard because they've all been taken. But I'm going to go with empathy, I think.
Empathy. That's beautiful. Right. I remember, honestly, I think it was when I was in Montreal in school, the principal came in and substituted one day. And the one thing I remember, I don't remember much from school in general, but how he explained the difference between sympathy and empathy. And he said, sympathy is when we understand, we get what someone's going through, but empathy is we feel it.
Yeah.
And that's such a beautiful parallel with compassion. We really feel what we're going through. We really inside ourselves really get it. And that's a beautiful door to start to open to create self-compassion. Is wow, I really can empathize with how hard it is right now in life or whatever it is, right? So that's a very beautiful doorway. Thank you. And Colleen, would you, your name, where you're from, and one word, what is compassion for you?
Hi, I'm Colleen Lunt. I'm from Hiram, Utah. My one word is holding space for. I know that that's 3 words, but holding space, because if you can hold space without judging, without ruminating, it's an allowing.
It's beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you. Oh, such wisdom. Thank you so much. All right. So thank you both for introducing yourselves. And if I've ever missed anybody who never said, please just let me know. I want to make space for everybody and know everybody. So today what we're doing is our integration call, which means I want to know what's on your mind. What do you want to talk about? What's stewing and brewing for you? I have 3 questions that came in. One, Marty, you put on Facebook, what the heck do I do with all the leftovers? I got too much food. Absolutely, let's talk about that. The other one I got from Patrice, what's next? What do we do after this? I can answer that one too. And then Wendy, your question, which I'd love to start there and let you actually say it since you're here, because you emailed me like, how does this show up in real life? So, so if we could just, Wendy, I want to start with you, but I also want to just to get a sense, what are the other questions so I can kind of gauge where we're headed. So what else is on people's mind? What's brewing? What's stewing? What do you want support with, coaching with, questions about? Anything else? Judy, go ahead.
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted and I can hear you beautifully.
So I have an interesting thing that goes on around portion control.
Yep.
So I'm fine if I'm serving myself and I can, limit the amount of anything, all the things that are on my plate. But sometimes what happens if I open up a package of something and I take a little bit out and I close the package, I finish eating that, and 5 minutes later, I'm back and serving myself a little bit more. And then I close the package up again and I put it away. And 10 minutes later, I go back and I get that. And I cannot seem to be able to break that particular pattern.
Right. So that sort of more-ish, the package calling, the food speaking.
Right.
Okay, we'll come back to that one. Great.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? And this is not a last call for questions. Like as things come up, more things will come up. Stacy.
I have been setting my timer, like Serene suggested, and at that time I think like, I do like think about the nice word I call myself, the nice name, but then I sort of like lose concentration on it, and I'm like, well, yeah, I've already noticed, my back hurts, and that I'm full enough, and like I kind of go through the things, and then I'm like, I lose the like, oh, there's a bird, I get distracted, I guess I could say.
So you come to a place of gentleness and tenderness with yourself, and it holds for a second, and then suddenly you're on to all the things that aren't working. Did I get that right?
The gentleness and tenderness, isn't it, to recognize like how your body feels, and like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, my foot is kind of bothering me today. I mean, I kind of recognize those things anyway, that
Mm-hmm.
awareness, but I guess I give it a little extra weight since doing this exercise. But what I'm noticing that is sort of, I'm thinking is a problem, is that I get real distracted. Like, I've done this long enough. Okay, now let me get on to the next thing.
Yeah. So the
And I
practice of
think
staying present with your body. Yep. Okay.
Nina, I have
Yes.
something sort of related,
Yeah, Meredith.
which is, a good thing was I discovered this week after we talked about nervous system, I finally realized one night when I had some issues after dinner, I'm eating all my good food, didn't quite do it. And, but after I ate the things I wasn't supposed to eat and wanted to, I finally felt calm and sort of wasted and exhausted and ready to think about bed. And it struck me that I had been revved up because of a work issue, and it had kept me revved even after dinner when I was trying to relax.
Mhm.
That I, in effect, I've done it a million times, but I just saw it and felt it, and it made sense with what you said. I just medicated myself with a whole bunch of stuff I shouldn't eat, and I was finally tired and exhausted and calm. So I'm going to have to work on that part, because I had done a little hand on heart, but maybe I'm going to have to meditate more, do something. So I'm excited to learn about how to go further there, whether it's on my own or with you.
Okay. So, all right, Meredith, that's great. So it's that whole concept of food as a sedative, or food as a way of supporting our nervous system to come down. And how do you notice that before you finish everything? Right. Okay. So I will come back to that one. All right. Anything else? Yes, Emily, go right ahead.
How to deal with let's say you have a treat in the cupboard, and you keep thinking about it, or you're choosing it instead of other things just because it's there. And so how can you trust yourself or make decisions around that?
So I call it the food that calls, right? It's like in the cupboard going, googie, googie, googie.
Or cookie.
That too, right. And that's doing this and doing some really seductive dance in the cupboard, right? Like how do you be with those foods that do that, right, for you? So that's great. Okay. So many good things. All right. I'm going to jump in. Wendy, go for it. And then we're going to move through everybody's stuff. And if there's more, there's more. This isn't, again, not last call for questions. So Wendy, tell me the question. I can read it, but I'd prefer if you would just say what's brewing.
Yeah, it's just, for me, the challenge is I kind of understand everything cognitively. I appreciate that, compassion could lead me to a much better place overall in many areas of my life, and that the compassion has to start with me. And I understand all the tools and techniques that we should be applying. But I just find that, with the best intention in the world, the whirlwind of my day and my 3 children and running my home and, you know, prioritizing the children's meals and needs and everything else. The self-compassion it just doesn't show up for me.
Mhm.
And I'm always, you know, kind of, I don't know whether it's a sense of I don't feel worthy of it, or I don't know how to do it, or I've never been modeled how to do it in relation to myself. But it's just, I just find it very difficult to put the tools and techniques and the thought processes into practice.
Yeah.
Even though I understand them and I want to, and, you know, I'm ready, I just
Yeah.
can't seem to make that jump from knowing to doing.
Yeah.
There's a huge kind of valley in between for me.
There is. And then that's what, you know, what I call the pit of shame, right? Like I know it, but I don't do it. And now I just feel bad. There's a couple of just big rocks that I want to put on the table around what you're talking about. One, you said, you know, it was never modeled. And that's the truth. We were never taught how to talk to ourselves nicely, right? When life got stressful, we were taught to push ourselves harder. So just this morning, I tend to work with women who are over, you know, 35, 40, but occasionally I get some clients who are young women. So I was talking to a client of mine this morning who's 20, and she's at university, and she was like, I just feel like I just can't take a break until everything's finished. I'm like, so is there ever a time in university that you think you'll have all your reading done and all your papers finished? And she was like, it's just not possible. I was like, it's not possible. She's like, but I have it like emblazoned, do not stop until finished, right? She's 20, right? We get those messages very early, right? Go, 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 go harder. So, and Trish says, I don't have kids, but I work 13 hours a day at least and have that same problem, right? I've got such big expectations. So one is I want to put on the table that idea that was never modeled, and it was actually drilled into us to go harder. That's one thing. The other thing, and I know, you know, like Trish is saying, she doesn't have 3 kids, but it's similar. But how many kids do you have, and how old are they?
Me?
Yes.
Sorry, so I have 3, and my eldest is 15, and my youngest is 9.
Okay. Anyone else, when their kids were between 9 and 15, felt like, oh my gosh, where did I go? Do you see that?
I would say from 0 to 15.
Yes, from 0 to 15. Exactly. Okay, so I want to put some things just on the table that are the reality. Like, so it's not like, I don't know why I can't do this thing. There are some very good reasons, right? Jen says, I only have 1 and I feel it, right? Absolutely. There's that sense of life is, you know, I grew up in a Jewish household, and there's a saying, alles für die Kinder, which is a Yiddish saying. It's like from German, everything for the children, right? That was the saying. That's how you were brought up. Alles für die Kinder. You should do everything for the kids. So where do you go?
Yeah.
When it's all for our kids, and it's not just Jewish culture that raises us like that as mothers, it's mothers who are raised like that.
Yeah. Could I possibly give you an example of how it manifests, and then maybe you can offer some techniques to how to manage the situation? So, for instance, between kind of 4 p.m. and 8 p.m. is the rush hour in our house.
Yes.
You know, I'm doing the school runs, I'm doing the homework, I'm, you know, taking care of the house, and invariably what happens is, so I cook a family dinner, but I don't sit down and eat dinner with the family because I want to get on with the chores. Similar to your 20-year-old student, I can't relax until everything is done. And that for me is usually kind of, you know, 9 p.m, 9:30, where I'll grab half an hour, and then I'm so exhausted I'm in bed by 10:30. So what happens is within that kind of period of 4 till 8, I am preparing a meal for the family, but I'm also hungry. So what happens is, as I'm preparing, I'm snacking on this and I'm snacking on that. And, you know, if you kind of put all of those 10 snacks together, it would probably equate to a really lovely, healthy, balanced meal. But because it's done in the way that it's done, you know, 10 snacks over 4 hours, for instance, just to keep me going, to get all the jobs done, to get the children in bed, to keep my energy going. Then by the time my day is ended, I'm not necessarily hungry because I've put sustenance in, but I also don't feel satisfied. But because it's so late, it's then too late for me to eat a proper nourishing meal.
Yeah.
And then I just end up having another snack to help me sleep through the night. And then we're back onto the roller coaster the next day.
Yeah.
And it's, for me, it's not that I'm concerned about, you know, I know that I'm getting balance and I'm getting enough, but it's more the behaviors. You know,
Yeah.
I want to stop that behavior and be able to sit down and honor myself with a nice, nutritious, balanced meal that looks very pretty, that I can be present with, and leave feeling satiated, rather than feeling that I've just kind of scavenged all these snacks and eaten the kids' leftovers, and, you know, and scraped out the pan and whatever else I do. And that's where it manifests, and that's a really challenging time for me,
Yeah.
those hours in the day.
That's okay. So first of all, I want to point your attention to the chat where even Ree is saying, you know, my youngest is 25 and oldest 32, and it's still chaos, right? Like it doesn't just suddenly end, right? Other people's needs will always be there.
Mhm.
So how do we put ourselves in the picture? Because right now, if I looked at that picture, right, it's you taking care of everybody else and throwing yourselves little scraps to keep you going,
Yeah,
right? You wouldn't treat anybody else that way.
no.
So part of it, right, Jude says, I have my dad living with me at the moment, and there are parallels, right? There will always be somebody's needs around us that if we don't say, you know what about me? They end up being really big. And they end up being like, oh my gosh, I have to take care of them, and I go last.
Yeah.
So one is, first of all, what you're doing already, which is really, really clearly seeing there's a picture here and I'm just this little like there is no me. And it may mean disrupting. Valerie says, mommy always comes last. That was my dear mother's message, right? That's the message we got. Mommy comes last. Woo-wee. Right? So if you were, even if it was 20 minutes, if you were to put 20 minutes of you actually sitting at a table, I'm not saying half an hour, I'm not saying an hour of like dining. If you were to put 20 minutes of you sitting down, where would it go? Would it go before the rush hour? Would it go, you know what, everybody's sitting, it's mayhem, like all hell's breaking loose, but I'm going to sit down and eat with my kids? Like, what would it look like?
Well, I know what would happen. I wouldn't enjoy the meal because I would be very conscious of the fact that after the meal, I've still got 1,000,001 things that I need to do. So I know, you know, we talk about the rest and digest and the sympathetic and the parasympathetic. I just know that my parasympathetic wouldn't activate in that circumstance. So that's generally why I put it off, because then there's the implication of, you know, it messes with my digestion and, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm waiting for a time where I can relax and enjoy it and be in parasympathetic and, you know, the cephalic phase of satiation.
Yeah. So that's not going to happen perfectly.
Okay.
Right? It's just not going to happen perfectly. And Serene just wrote something very beautiful. She says, I have 3 children as well. And when they were little, I realized I had to do something Wait, there was something else. Oh, that's Rachel. Wait, there was something Serene says. It feels like baby steps. You are worthy. You deserve to absorb the love and appreciation at that dinner table.
Yeah, I like that.
And stopping long enough to honor yourself. We are beginning a rule in my house. No one eats until mom picks up her chopsticks.
Mm.
That is a very, very powerful thing. And that was a thing that I had in my house. You don't start until I'm sitting down. I am not the waitress here. We eat together. And your kids are old enough to wait now.
Yeah.
And they're old enough to, unset the table and move things along afterwards so that you're not feeling like it's all you for dinner.
Yeah.
But it's disrupting a pattern. And my invitation to you is to be in a place of experiment and be completely upfront with your family. I'm going to do something a little different. This may feel a little awkward, but I'm realizing, because they care about you. You say, I'm realizing I'm not eating. I am cranky. I am irritable. I need to eat. I deserve to be at the table too. Will you help me by waiting until I sit down and inviting me to the table if I'm not sitting?
Yeah.
So it's not you trying to change this dynamic all by yourself. You're in a family system. You're changing a whole thing. This does not have to be perfect. There's also incredible wisdom over here from, So Rachel says, I have 3 children as well. And when they were little, I realized I had to do something for myself whenever I could. Oftentimes it was during the day when nobody was around. I would go to the gym, take a walk, whatever would help me feel good and relaxed. Right? So the other thing that I did, because I was racing, like I'm fast in the kitchen, and I would be like going super fast. There was no nervous system. Like I was fight or flight getting dinner on in time.
Yeah.
So in my family, I instituted 2 minutes of meditation. I used my phone, put the timer on. When the kids were really little, I let them choose the bell at the end. I really couldn't have cared less if they were kicking themselves under the table the entire 2 minutes. I needed those 2 minutes to breathe and shift my nervous system. Otherwise, I ate, didn't even know I ate.
And you engaged the whole family in that practice.
Yep. And I said, this is going to be what it is. And for the first 2 years, they were kicking, they were whining, they were eyes open. I was like, I honestly don't care. I'm taking 2 minutes right now. I just made an entire meal. I am running this whole household. I am taking 2 minutes to breathe before I eat. Otherwise, I'm just racing through everything. And now, often it's my kids will be like, let's meditate. And you can hear it. Put the timer on. I can hear my kids go, because they're doing the same thing in their lives, racing. Everybody is. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it gives everybody a moment to just be with themselves. So Wendy, you'll notice we didn't just do an extreme makeover, right? It's not like, oh my gosh, how do I take all of this and put it into action? You can't. You take one tiny piece, 20 minutes, you sit down, you ask, you engage your family, and you say, I really need something to shift here. And you stick with it, even though they're like, I don't want to. This is stupid. I hate this. And they're chatting through the meditation. Fine. My son went through a stage of singing through the meditation. I was like, I don't care. He's sitting here, I'm sitting here, and I get to close my eyes for 2 minutes.
And did you still find that effective even with that going on around you?
You just can't react. At the end, you say, you know what? These are 2 minutes from me. I'm asking for you to give me 2 minutes. And if you want to use it for you, great. But this is for me. And eventually they're like, oh my gosh, 2 minutes of silence, nobody asking me to do anything or tell me anything or pass me anything. Well, that's kind of nice. It's just 2 minutes. I still have it on my Insight timer, a little thing that's like dinner timer. I set it as a preset. And we would have company. And I would say to the company, that obviously before COVID, we would have company. And I'd say, we have a tradition, we have a ritual in our family where we meditate for 2 minutes before. Would you like to join us? And they'd be like, oh my gosh, that's so fun, cool. And everybody would do it. And all the guest kids would like one eye open, one eye, I don't care. It's not your job to make them love it. It's your job to carve space for yourself. Judith, when I got together with my partner right from the start, I had a hunch it would be wise to set up saying bon appetit and starting to eat together each time. So glad I did. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. It's beautiful. So does this feel like something you could just step into?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just an experiment.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. And just everybody else who's taken this in, what are you taking away from it? If you put it in the chat, what feels pertinent to you? Because Wendy, I know, even though, it may be like, oh, my kids are young, I've got 3 kids, there's specific things in there. It's applicable to everybody.
Yeah.
There's something in there. So if you would just take this like conversation and go, okay, how does this apply? What do I want to explore? What do I want to play with? What do I want to incorporate? What would be a thing for me to do here? Jen says, just take the next away step. For me, those caramelized onions have had a cascading effect. Jen, you want to unmute yourself and say more about that? I'm really curious.
It was supposed to be baby step. You
Baby
said
step.
what are the takeaways? And the takeaway
Yes.
for me was it's like just the next right thing, right? It's not, and literally I feel like the caramelized onions have changed my life. And just like every day at lunch, I add caramelized onions and they taste sweet and they taste rich and they're already made, which is the best freaking part of the whole thing.
Nice.
So, and I made a bunch of other stuff too. I made the rice and I made I actually didn't make the quinoa yet, but I made a bunch of stuff to start the week. That was also just, I was like, okay, I can just prepare food. I mean, I know it's like the thing you say at the beginning, which is like, I know I should spend 2 hours on Sunday or an hour, boiling stuff and having stuff ready. And I just never do it. I'm just doing other stuff.
You are, but even that, like, I know we did 2 hours, but if you put on one pot of something every night, 5 minutes, at the end of the week, you've got an hour of cooking done.
Well, and the truth was, doing it with you guys was enjoyable. I mean, it made it more enjoyable, but I was like, oh, how could I replicate that? And then, but just having it's such a big benefit for a little hassle on Sunday. And I'm just trying to be really present to that too. Like, it is Thursday and I have known what to eat for lunch every day. And I've known what to make for dinner every day. And there's so much brain power that goes into like, oh, what am I going to do? And oh my God. And is John going to make tacos? And and it just like all that space is clear. So it's worth the whatever noise I've got on Sunday going,
That's great. That's great. Yeah. And to brainstorm what would make it possible for you to do it on Sunday with ease. Right. Whether it's getting the food delivered on Saturday, whether it's getting someone out, whatever that is.
Maybe I make the rice and the quinoa on Saturday and I make the onions and the on Sunday. And then boom, I've got, and then it's only a half an hour each of those days.
Exactly. And you make the I like that.
Yeah, the so it's just like, because I can't speak English.
I totally love that.
Yeah.
All right.
I have to sign off. Thank you so much, everybody.
Nice to see you, Jen. All right. There's some great ideas in here, right? Debbie, I'm going to use the 2-minute meditation. Put your own mask on, right? Emily, it's a reminder that I matter just as much as my son. Right? Yep, absolutely. Then also, Colleen, my family is grown and gone. I can still take a moment. Hello, food. Hello, body. Hello, pleasure. Absolutely. Oh, Judith, I was just thinking about how sweet it would be to have cooking buddy dates sometimes. Absolutely. So fun. Which, okay, that gets me to the next thing. Pat learned so much, but unfortunately, little time bad habits. Okay. Even without children. Yeah, it's a lot. Okay. I want to keep rolling. Stacy says, without moms, the kids wouldn't be here. Absolutely. We are important. Valerie says, I'll try the 2 minutes, but my husband's always ready to eat as fast as he can. He's already finished when I'm only halfway through. It's fine. Okay, that's your eating rhythm, and my eating rhythm is different. I'm going to take 2 minutes. It's amazing, though, how much when we sit in what we need, how people respond around us. It's very, very powerful. So Judith, you said cooking dates. So it just brings me to the question that Patrice asked, what's next? I'll talk more about it next week, but really the next thing, if this is a path that feels like super helpful and being in community is helpful, is the Body Peace Path. And the Body Peace Path is a year-long program. It's a much smaller group, so we get right into really juicy topics. There's more details about it that I can say, but Judith, you gave me an idea for the Body Peace Path. We should do cooking dates in that group. Serene's like, oh yeah. So we should talk about it, because some of the people here, when you're in the Body Peace Path, you get to do the compassionate eating whenever it happens. So some of the people you see here are in that group, but we should add that in sometimes in a way that feels supportive. That would be fun. So I will say more about Body Peace Path next week and have a little more information, like written information for you. But if you know, like, oh gosh, I really want to talk about next steps, reach out to me and we can have a conversation about it. The other thing is there are some of you who have signed up for private sessions and haven't booked with me. Please do. And if you're not finding the link that I sent you, just email me and I'll throw out some times, but let's get it on the calendar. And I'm also hearing about people saying, I'm really loving this process. A lot's coming up for me. Can I get more support? Yes. Reach out to me. Let's talk about it. Hold on. Okay. So, all right. I would like to talk next about the whole thing about portion control and the calling food, right? The one that's hollering from you. Because once we start open, and then often that it's connected to the, but I'm calling, what about me? Come back to the cabinet. So there's a couple of things I want to pull apart the dynamics that happen in there. One is there's pleasure often with whatever is calling, whether it's in the package or in the cabinet. There's a desire for pleasure, right? I want something, it's going to give me pleasure. That's usually like the cookie, the sweet, the whatever. So one is our desire for pleasure. The other is there's a whole piece around restriction. Whenever we're having a very strong, this food is calling for me, there's also often an underlying restriction. So it could be, but I just gave myself a piece of chocolate cake. Why do I want another piece of chocolate cake? Like, I gave it to me, there's no restriction, right? So, okay. This is my brain jam moment. Let me tell you a story. I used to, before I had kids, I was working at the Mass School of Pharmacy. I was a college counselor. I was doing counseling full-time, therapy full-time. Really stressed out community of pharmacy students. And I would come home, and on the way home, I would stop at this bakery and they had this peanut butter chocolate cake. I would pick up the piece and I would eat the whole thing in the car. I would never tell my husband. I would never bring home the wrapper. There was so much shame wrapped up in that piece, right? So it was going from stressful work, right, where there was like no space for me and just like panic all the time, and trying to support a system that was like that, to me trying to manage my nervous system, wrapped up with all the shame, and then no sweets in the house. And I was like, this is so not working. This is like so not working. The shame was just like debilitating. And so it was around that time that I started to bake in a way that just worked better for me, like with alternative sweeteners, with alternative flours, things that just didn't make me feel like, this is a really weird thing to say, but I would eat a lot of chocolate, my eyes would sweat. It was almost like it was too much sugar, it was too much chocolate, it was like a real binge. Like literally I felt like my eyes were sweating. I was like, this is not at all working. So I was like, all right, this like peanut butter chocolate cake is like, it became a prison. It was always calling, and there was always this feeling of not enough. And yet I was giving it to myself. So I was like, that's it. I'm going to make myself the whole cake. So I was like, I'm going to make myself the whole cake. And you know what? The first couple of times I ate a lot of cake. But then I was like, I can make myself that cake anytime. I was like, I don't actually want cake. Right? It wasn't restricted to that one moment of driving home in stress. That's the only time you get a sweet. That's the only time you're allowed. I opened the container, the tightness of restriction. And was there a swing to, oh my gosh, I don't think I'll ever stop eating chocolate cake? Yes. Did it stop? Yes. Do I still make myself a chocolate cake sometimes? Yeah. Do I eat the whole thing? Not so much, because I know I can get it again. So the restriction gets this thing like, oh my gosh, I have to have it, right? So okay, so restriction on one side. So what I'm trying to do is just sort of pull apart what's all the different components in the calling food. So one is there some restriction in here? Is this like a taboo food? The other is this the only place I'm getting pleasure? Where else is pleasure happening? And the other is, if I sat down, because who brought it up? The first, I know Emily, you did, and who was the other person who brought it up? Judy, you brought it up.
Yeah.
So with that package calling, what's it? Is it the taste? Is it like, oh, that was so fun? Is it like, what's in there?
So I like what you've been saying, because I resonate on the restriction side.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not even a sweet food. Sometimes it can be a package of the rice crackers, those circular rice crackers.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll eat two and put the package, away, and then I'm back. I think a piece of it was being the eldest of 5 children, and the eldest was taught to share. And I felt like I never got seconds, because things would be eaten, and if I didn't take it all out, then I didn't get. So sometimes it feels, once I open up the package, I go back until I'm finished. And the restriction hits me in that I still have foods that I do not buy. Like I can't keep like peanut butter in the house, because I know once I open that jar, that'll be what I'm snacking on. And within 2 days, the entire jar is gone. And I feel badly about the fact that I'm doing this behavior.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's the restriction, right? And
Yeah,
it also,
really restriction.
yeah, and it feeds into this place of not trusting ourselves. I can't trust myself with a full jar of peanut butter. I can't trust myself with an entire thing of crackers. And somebody else, who else posted, sharing. There's a lot of amazing comments. I can't read them all, but man, they are good. Who said that thing about also sharing with other siblings? Judith, you did. Okay, right? It's a thing. I had to share, right? Some of you heard the story. Candy would come into my house growing up, and then it would get hidden. And I would go searching everywhere in my house, and I would find it like in a pot in the bottom cabinet. And I wouldn't actually find it. I'd find a note from my brother that said, haha, found it first. And it was gone. Right. So what did I learn? If there was sweets there, you better get it, because there might not be enough for you. Right. So that restriction, it kind of, it disrupts our trusting, our hunger, and our needs will get met. So there is a calibration time when we're like, oh my gosh, if I give myself this, uh-oh, I'm going to eat it all. Uh-oh, I'm going to gain weight. Uh-oh, I'm going to be living in a bigger body. Can't do that. Restriction. But this process of opening into trusting yourself is very powerful.
And I'm sitting and I can feel the tears. The shame is so heavy that I do this. And more so that I'm being able to publicly say this in front of all of you. I should, by all these years in my life, have been able to deal with this. And I also hear it as something you said before. It's the managing, without trusting ourselves, having to manage in that.
Yeah.
There isn't.
Yeah, that was a good breath. And Judy, thank you so much for saying what your experience has been, and for naming the shame and being able to look at the pattern of restriction.
And it is, as someone just said, I do feel like I'm the only one who does it.
Yeah.
As weird as that is, I mean, I know.
Okay, anybody else ever done this? Look around. Look around.
Judy, I haven't eaten a donut in 35 years because of restriction. I only make a cake when it's my partner's birthday, and then it's everything, takes everything I have not to eat it within 24 hours. I play a million games. I can't have cookies in the house. I allow myself rice crackers, and those disappear sometimes, and I'm trying not to fault myself for it. I want to live in a house like normal people with foods for sharing with people, but I'm not there yet. But when Nita talks about opening that up, if it would work, I'll try it, but I might be a city block before I get there. That's what I worry about.
Right. That's the fear, right? It'll never happen. I'll never be able to hear my authentic hunger. I'll never be able to hear my authentic fullness. I'll never be able to trust my body again. Our ability to trust our body, that's our birthright. We were born that way.
Those are potato chip Lays. You can't eat just one.
Right? But isn't that interesting? That's the marketing.
Absolutely.
Right? The marketing that gets into our head of you can't trust yourself.
And for me, I hear my mother in my head about not putting your spoon back into something after you've put it in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
So I will go through 20 spoons going back to get that thing.
Yeah.
And then I have to wash all the spoons and get them in the drawer before my partner sees them.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really I can't read all these unbelievably powerful comments, but please make sure you see this chat. It is just the epitome of compassion and understanding. And we have all been there. We get it, right? Absolutely. And Carrie, right? The shame of like, I'm going to eat the chocolate and then I'm going to eat it all before I even get home. And nobody will know. It didn't happen. Me too. Like, I totally get it. Totally get it from the inside out. Whew. Judith, thank you. And it's not our fault. Absolutely. That's the trap. But I should know better, right? I'm smart. I'm capable in all these other ways. I'm holding, and it is not our fault, right? We've had a diet culture hammering us. We've had misogyny hammering us. We've had patriarchy hammering us, telling us how we should be and what we should eat and what size we should be. right? This body peace work is really, this body liberation work is very powerful. It's very feminist. It's very taking back our body. Okay. Whew. Meredith, these last couple of weeks, I'm trying to think of my goals. Harm reduction. Yeah. Janice makes me want to cry. Absolutely. Serene's laughing at me. She sees me go whoop, right around. I try very hard not to. So yes, it makes, there's tears and there's anger, right? I had my years of tears, and right now I am in huge anger and huge advocacy. Absolutely. All right. So yeah. These stories, amazing. Yeah. Okay. Whew. Okay. There's so many things I want to talk about and dive into. I do want to get back to some of the questions because I promised I would answer, and I like to do what I promised. So, but I want to circle back. Emily, does that help you in terms of the calling food?
Yes, very much so.
Okay.
I feel like, especially what Judy said about, the siblings and all of that, I realized that in my house when I was growing up, we didn't have any treats. And so now I have treats, and they're good for me treats. And I've learned that from you. And I think it's just okay to have them. It doesn't have to be this whole secretive, oh, I can only take some when no one's looking or anything like that. And I think what I'm doing is, there's the pleasure aspect, but there's also that I never had it for all these years and I was never okay with it. And so it's almost like I'm making up. And I know from my own journey that will eventually go away because it has in other areas.
Yes.
So I'm so grateful for Judy for sharing that, because I feel like that helped me see too. For me.
Thank you. And thank you also for highlighting the power of community and being with other women on the journey. We learn so much from each other. Okay. All right, I think I'm going to move to Marty's practical question about food, and then I want to end around how do we stay present in our body, because that's connected to food as the sedative and grounding, using food as sedative and grounding. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Marty, almost everything we made can go in the freezer. And here's how rice freezes really well. Quinoa freezes really well. Vegetable soup freezes really well. And here's what I would recommend, especially if you're, cooking for yourself, is make those dragon bowls and freeze it as a dragon bowl. So you're not because part of your life is super busy, much like many women's lives, but your life is, you're like, go, 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 to be able to say, okay, tomorrow and the next day, I'm going to pull those 2 dragon bowls out, let those defrost. Because even worse comes to worse, you're like, oh, I'm just not really in the mood for the dragon bowl. You'll go, okay, well, in it, I've got some vegetables and fruit and vegetables and grain. You know what? I'm going to just take some pesto, mix it in, stuff it in a squash, and then I got something different, right? Or I'm going to make myself a piece of fish, and that'll be just like a little side with, I don't know, fresh salsa or some guac on top. Right? Even if it doesn't become lunch or a dinner, it can become a side or a stuffing, something like that. But freeze a ton of it. Okay, does that answer?
Yes, thank you. I know some of my fresh veggie salads that I've made, I don't know that I can freeze those. So.
No, that's not going to freeze well. So a couple things you can do with fresh veggie salad. One is if you just take the lettuce out and saute everything else. Or because once you take the lettuce out, usually what's underneath is like the crunchy stuff, and that can also be a topping for a grain, or throw it into a soup. like a topping for a soup or something. But it's true. The thing that's going to go first is the lettuce, lettuce and avocado-y stuff. That's going to go first. Okay. So let's take the last few minutes, talk about food as a sedative. And so here's the thing. We talked this week about nervous system, right? Sympathetic nervous system, fight or flight. Parasympathetic, rest and digest. Food is awesome, whoop, right? Especially binging. It actually makes us go like this. Oh, I ate something, I'm going to digest now, right? So there is this desire to use food as medication. So food becomes that sedative experience to get us out of the nervous system. Food also becomes grounding, right? For years and years, I would get off airplanes, come home and walk into the fridge kitchen and start eating. I was like, what the heck? I'm not even hungry. Like I literally just ate, you know, at the airport or on the plane. I was like, what am I doing here eating? But I was like, no, I have to eat. I was like, I feel ungrounded, like literally ungrounded. I have been in the sky and I need to get grounded. It took me like, honestly, like decades to figure that one out. But it really proved to me how food really gets us in and present in our body. So if we're using food as grounding, right? If we're using food as a sedative, right? We know our nervous system is jangling and we're using food as a way to, the first thing is to go, oh, wow, that's a jangly nervous system. Oh, wow, I'm ungrounded. Put a sticker on your experience. Name it. Oh, fried nervous system. Oh, airplane body. Like for some reason, I don't know if other people are like this, but for me, like getting on an airplane, I find it really ungrounding. I do. I travel. When I go away for a weekend, I need a whole day. I don't work on Monday so that I can have that day to ground. I find myself out of my body. I'm like, because I went somewhere else? Like, I have a pretty sensitive body, but I know I'm not alone with this. So one is going, I am ungrounded. I am feeling triggered. I am feeling stressed. Absolutely. So one of the things that I want to ask you now, or what are the things, all of us, what do you know that in 20 seconds, I'm not talking about a bath, I'm not talking about going for a walk in nature, in 20 seconds gets you more connected to your physical body? Just jot it down. What do you know? Janice says, I think that's what I've been doing. My nervous system is haywired from grief. I'm afraid to feel so deeply, but naming can help. Breathing, movement, outside, hand on the heart, breathing, stroke some part of my body, closing my eyes, breathing deeply. Say, take care with breath. Wow. Yeah. Breath, right? Our breath, if you can name it, and also breath and touch. Those are the most all is well kind of a mantra, right? I often go, I'm safe. I'm safe. I tap right here and I go, I'm safe. Right now, I'm safe. In this moment, I am safe. Because that's what my nervous system is telling me. You are not safe. Do whatever it takes to get safe. Oh, cookies, that'll make you safe. Sure, that's good safety. Right? That's when we're in that nervous system activation, right? Bread and butter, that'll make you safe, right? That's how my body was like, yeah, that'll do it, right? So it's like, oh, I'm safe, I'm safe, I'm safe. Janice, I used to make bracelets to wear with little sayings. Yeah, maybe need to wear them again. So, oh, Janice, now you have customers. So right? Those things that remind us we can stay present in our body. We can be in our body. Before we even make a choice about food, okay? Do you see I'm pulling those two things apart? Food is medication first. Oh, I'm feeding a system. What's going on in this system that needs medication? Nervous system activation, right? That's why when I did the curriculum for this program, I was like, nervous system first, food first, nervous system first, food. Like, honestly, I could have gone either way because this nervous system piece is so critical. So to look, it can even help on a scale of 1 to 10. Where's my nervous system? Oh, wow, I'm at a 12. Yeah, okay, 12. I'm safe. All is well. It's okay. Right hand stroking. Absolutely. Janice, okay. Nice to have you here. Thank you. Oh, right, Meredith. It used to be I would smoke a cigarette as a young woman. Absolutely, right? Smoking that, like, it's a device to manage a nervous system. Right? Eating, way to manage the nervous system. Shopping, people use that to manage their nervous system, right? So there's this way that it's a bigger piece of curriculum, but there's this idea that we have this nervous system stimulation that comes up and it's uncomfortable. And so we want to hop off. We want to get off of the wave of experience that it can be uncomfortable. And so the way we get off of that wave is eat, shop, do drugs, drink, smoke cigarettes, all these ways to get away from our discomfort. This 20-year-old client of mine this morning, she said, yeah, it's really uncomfy. I was like, yes, it is uncomfy. It's like so well said. It is truly uncomfy. And to be like, wow, I'm really uncomfy. What do I need? I need to know I'm safe. I need to take a breath. I need to come into presence. Okay, so I'm gonna wrap up the questions there. What I'd like to do in the last 2 minutes, what are you taking away? What are you leaving with? What feels important? And again, I say this, I'm asking partly for you to anchor it, but also because we're learning so much from each other. It's so powerful to hear what someone else is taking away. You're like, oh, that's a good idea. Serene, thank you for this. Been working with Nina for over a year. When we bring the shame to light, things begin to shift. Yes, yes, and yes, absolutely. Sometimes so slowly, you don't even realize it. Don't you wish it was faster sometimes? Letting go of the restriction really does allow you to trust yourself and trust your eating. Allow yourself everything. See what comes up. I now know peanut butter in my house, and I now have peanut butter in my house and peanut M&Ms and chocolate and everything, and I'm surrounded by forbidden, and it's not calling to me. Right? It changes. It really does change. We can develop this place of really trusting ourselves. It's very powerful. And Judith, thank you. The gap between what I know and what I do, right? Feel more of a sense of it now. Brilliant. Okay, let me look at some of these things. Wendy, you're taking away small steps. So important. Small steps. Cannot do this. This is not extreme makeover work, right? This is not 30 pounds in 30 days. It's just not how it is. This is a deep shift in our relationship with self, in our relationship with our body, in our relationship with tending to ourselves in a responsive way, not in a should way, not in a management way. Valerie, I'm looking at my nervous system more closely. Yes. Not alone. We can work on this together. Yeah, absolutely, Carrie. Meredith, taking away just how key the state of my nervous system is. Honestly, knew my eating was emotional, but not thought about my nervous system, and it really hits home. Right. Yeah. I have a real pet peeve with this idea of emotional eating. I'm like, of course we emotionally eat. We're emotional humans. Like, of course I eat emotionally. We're having a birthday party. I'm eating emotionally. I'm at a funeral. I am eating emotionally. I am an emotional human being. Different than I am trying to regulate my nervous system. Right? Takes away the shame of that emotional eating. That emotional eating is sometimes just life, and sometimes it's coping. The best we can do. Marty says, get back in my body and notice when I'm going unconscious and nervous system dysregulation. Yeah, so powerful. All right. Thank you. Yeah. All right, Meredith. Yeah. Okay. Thank you for all your participation, for all of your realness and vulnerability. I so deeply appreciate you being here and appreciate, oh, there's one other really important thing I want to say. And deeply appreciate you just showing up. The other thing that I completely forgot to say is there's another bonus that comes with the compassionate eating, and it's the Shifting into Body Love video series. I'm going to start you all on that series. There's 2, you're going to get it by email. And it really just explores what are the other relationship realms besides body management. Okay, so I'm not going to go into it much more, but I am going to invite you to look at it. And there's 2 ways to take it in. One is just let each email come for 7 days. You'll get a little reminder. Here's a video. Here's something to think about. And it'll guide you through 7 days. The other is in the first email, there's a link. If you're just like, I'm too impatient, let me just see all the videos. There's a link that'll just take you to that page. And all the videos are there. I just, people like to digest things differently. So if you want it all at once, go for it. And if you want it little bit, and even if you take it all at once, you'll still get little reminders every day. All right, Debbie says, naming and labeling the nervous system activation, realizing that I can breathe, touch my heart, tell myself I'm safe. Yeah, so important. Thank you. Okay, thank you everybody so much. All right, if you want, you can unmute yourself. We can say a nice loud goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thank you,
so
everyone.
much.
Thank you.